Okay. Hi, everybody. Where is Gitty's not here? No.
He's not here. And Elaine, nobody's videotape that's in Gottlieb's share, so I don't know about yours.
Okay, so I have mine on YouTube. If anybody wants it, they can find it on YouTube, um, on my channel. So, okay, so who opened it? Who opened the class? Who hosted it?
Nope. I'm not aware of anybody hosting it.
Okay. Let's see if I can claim host. I don't know the number. Okay. Huh?
What happened?
Okay, I'm back. Okay, everybody has to mute herself because I can't mute myself. So could you please do that? Thank you. Okay. Something is cooking. That Gitty is not here. And okay, but let's learn anyway. I also couldn't get the YouTube working, but now I got it working. So let's hope that everything's working. As long as Hashem is working, that's the main thing. That's all that really counts. Probably nobody could get into the shir because there's nobody letting anybody in. So I don't know what to do about that. Um, okay, let's just learn. Let's not worry. Let's just learn. We're going to learn today again from the Shem Shmuel. That's our project, is learning from the Shem Shmuel. And we're learning Parshas Vayeshev. And he talks about the tzaddik here, the Rebbe talks about questions on the whole parsha of Mechiras Yosef. Because in this week's parsha, we have the selling of Yosef. The brothers sold Yosef to Mitzrayim, or they sold him to Yishmaelim, or sold him to, there was a bunch of sales going on, and not good sales for Yosef HaTzadik. They all ended up getting him into Mitzrayim. So, so here's a bunch of questions. It's funny because when I was in seminary, years and years ago, I remember we used to learn whatever we learned. That we used to learn we learned the Klei Yakar, we learned the Malbim, and the beginning of each of these tzaddikim, the beginning of each of their paragraphs was always a list of questions, and then came the answers. And I remember at one point I was able to read the questions when I was younger. I was able to read the questions, and I was not so much able to read the answers. So I decided I'm not going to read the questions. I'm just going to straight go to the answers. If I understand what the answers are, then I'll go back and see what questions they're answering. So here we're going to, however, we're going to start with a list of questions. And the questions are like this. Why in the world did Yaakov Avinu send Yosef to find his brothers and see if they're okay? Yaakov Avinu knew. This is a very famous question. He understood. He wasn't stupid. He knew that there's an ill will between his sons. He knew that Yosef HaTzadik was his favorite, and he knew that the brothers, his other sons, detected that he was the favorite. And Yaakov Avinu did not hide the fact that Yosef HaTzadik was his favorite. Yosef HaTzadik looks just like him. He had the same face as him. They looked alike. And Yaakov Avinu gave him that special clothing, the honorable clothing that, like the Rabbi Rashi, the Sephardic chief rabbi, and all the chief rabbis by the Sephardim, they wear a special glima, a special robe. He made him a special robe, as if to say, "You're the Rabbi Rashi, you're the brother Harashi of all of the brothers." And so, why did Yaakov Avinu do that? Why did he play favoritism? And why did he send him Why did he send Yosef HaTzadik? First of all, he sent him to a dangerous place. He sent him by himself. It was dangerous to go by himself. All the brothers went together. They had gone wherever they were going with the tzon, with the flock. They went as a group. And he sends Yosef HaTzadik alone. And indeed, Yosef HaTzadik did get lost. And he didn't know where they were. So why did he send him Why did he make him a privileged character? Why did he single him out? And and why indeed did the brothers not like him? After all, if the father likes him, and the brothers are all tzaddikim, it's not like they were not tzaddikim. The Shifteka, the children of Yaakov Avinu, everyone was a tzaddik. So how in the world did they feel unfriendly towards their brother, who was the father's favorite, who the father said, and they all respected Yaakov Avinu to the nth degree, and he's telling the children, the sons, okay, they were all adults, but he's telling them he is the one who is going to take over, right? So how come they didn't accept them? They didn't accept that. Why didn't they accept that? And why did Hashem do this to begin with? If Hashem wanted to bring Yosef and Tzaddik down to Mitzrayim, if Hashem, so the Midrashim is saying that Hashem wanted to bring Yosef and Tzaddik to Mitzrayim to begin the exile, to begin the Galus Mitzrayim. So why did he do it in this way? Hashem could have made him kidnapped, right? Like while he was going to find his brothers, Hashem could have made a kidnapper come and kidnap him. He was a very extraordinarily beautiful looking man. And so somebody could have come and kidnapped him and sold him to Mitzrayim. Why did the brothers have to sell him to Mitzrayim? So it looks like everybody was involved in doing something improper. That's what the Shem MiShmuel points out. Yaakov Avinu did something a little bit improper in that he made Yosef, he announced to the brothers, now listen, you know that you have to say to the children who's the heir, right? That's why David HaMelech, when at the end of his kingdom, he announced who's going to take over, right? But he only did that at the end of his kingdom. I'm sorry. Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm sorry, David HaMelech. Sorry. I'm in three different places now. David HaMelech, King David, at the very end of his kingship, when there was a confusion in the nation about who's going to be the next king, so David HaMelech announced that Shlomo, his youngest son, he's going to be the next king. But he did it because he was forced to do it, because there was two political upheavals that needed to be dealt with. So you have to say who's going to be the next one. All tzaddikim in their will say who's going to be the Mimale Makom, right? Every Rebbe, whoever's a Rebbe, has to have it in his will who he's choosing to be Mimale Makom. So why did Yaakov Avinu do this so early in life? From the time that they were very young, and he had many years to go, he elevated Yosef at Tzaddik. And why is it so? He did all these wrong things, Yaakov Avinu, apparently were wrong things. And again, remember that when we say that our grandfather did something wrong, it's not like me and you who do wrong things. Yaakov Avinu was so holy that our tzaddikim say, it says in the Zohar Kadosh, that Yaakov Avinu's face, so to speak, is carved out, so to speak, in the throne of Hashem, so to speak. All of these things are allegorical. But we know that Yaakov Avinu was called the Bechir HaAvot. He was the chosen one of all of the forefathers, right? Of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Where all Avram Avinu had Yishmael and a whole bunch of others, and Yitzchak Avinu had Esav, and Yaakov Avinu had only tzaddikim that came out of him. So when he does something wrong, it's because his soul is so holy and so extraordinary that the slightest imperfection stands out. It's like if a bride on her wedding dress, there's a tiny dot of the wine from the chuppah. That's what they use now, white wine under the chuppah, even though red wine is more mishubach, is an elevated wine. And that's why on Shabbos we make kiddush on red wine, and it's more energetic and whatever. But under the chuppah they use white wine nowadays. It shouldn't spill on the kala, because if on her brand new white dress there's a drop of a stain, you see it. So Yaakov Avinu shouldn't have sent him to a place of danger. He shouldn't have sent him to see what his brothers. Why didn't he send a servant? Yeah, Yaakov Avinu was a rich man. He could have sent anybody to see where the boys were. Why in the world did he send his precious son Yosef? to see how on this dangerous mission. Why? I never understood it. And now, Yosef and Tzaddik, what are the things that he did wrong? He did wrong that he used to play with his hair and used to act silly sometimes, Ma'asen Arut, and he would hang out with and he would hang out, with his with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, as if that was wrong. It wasn't really wrong because they have the Shvatim, but it was beneath his dignity on a certain level. And also, the worst thing was that every time he saw something going wrong with his brothers, he would come back and tell Yaakov Avinu to reprimand them, where he should have reprimanded them. And again, these things that I'm saying are so minute. If me and you would have done any of these things, it would be considered a mitzvah. And for Yaakov and for Yosef and Tzaddik, it's considered the wrong thing. And it says that Yosef Atzadik, he would see them and he would see them doing certain things, his brothers, and he didn't think that it was according to their level, so he told his father. Okay, so these are some of the questions. And not just that, but this sale of Yosef Atzadik, the selling of Yosef Atzadik, as you know, the kapara that was needed by the Jewish people, by the entire Jewish people, the kapara went all the way down to Aseret Harugei Malchus, the time of Rabbi Akiva, the time right before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the second Beis Hamikdash. That's how many thousands of years it was in the consciousness of the Jewish people. Why did it have to happen like that? Okay, so now the Shemish Shmuel first, before he gives his own answer, he quotes his father, and he does that a lot in almost every ma'amar, in almost every teaching that he teaches. He says whenever he begins the teaching, and then he quotes his father, and he says his father's answer, which I feel is like his way of doing kibbud av va'em on a certain level, kibbud av, to honor his father's Torah by saying what his father said. So his father said like this. His father said that if you look in the Haggadah of Pesach, it says, Vayered Mitzrayma anus al pi hazibur, which means we came to Mitzrayim, we were forced by the words, al pi hazibur, by the words. We were be'ones. Ones means when something happens to you that's out of your control. That's called ones. And we went down to Mitzrayim, it wasn't in our control. And what wasn't in our control? Because of the dibur, because of the words. The words, the dibur, that's what the Medrash says. And the Medrash says the following. This is what his father brings up. The Medrash says that Yaakov Avinu never ever once spoke inappropriately. Never once in his entire long life did he ever say one word that wasn't exactly perfect, except for one time. And that one time was when the brothers came and told the whole story of, they didn't know that Yosef was in Mitzrayim. They didn't know he was the ruler, and they didn't know anything. They went to search for him, and they had a conversation with him. And in the conversation, Yosef began interrogating them, and Yosef Hatzanih began interrogating them. And in the conversation, to prove that they were honest, they just described their whole background. They described that we're 12 brothers. One of them is missing. One of them is with him. The youngest is with our father because he's precious to him. And we're 10 others who are just coming to try to get food because of the famine. And so Yosef said, in order for me to prove that you're right, bring me that brother. So when Yaakov Avinu heard that, he said, no way, I lost Yosef, I'm not going to lose Binyamin. He's the only one I have left from Rachel, Imenu. So when they said, listen, that's all, we can't go back unless we bring him, Yaakov Avinu said to them, why did you tell them? Why did you tell him this? And that statement of why did you tell him this was considered extra, because we knew that they told him this, and the fact that Yaakov Avinu said these words out of aggravation, out of pain, out of being forced into a corner, that's considered wrong. It was just a regular conversation that Yaakov Avinu was having with his sons, but that was considered extra words of Yaakov Avinu. And so anus al pi hazibur, that means that the zibur, the extra words of Yaakov Avinu, created this whole scenario. That's what the Medrash says, and that's what the father of the Shem Shmuel brings down. And the Shem Shmuel brings down and says, "But yes, the Yesh lahosif bazeh." But he says, I'm going to add more to this. He doesn't say, I'm going to add. He says that and it could be added more to this. I'm always very impressed with his kibbud av, because he speaks in such a way that he's so much honoring his father and the Dvar Torah that his father said, but he has something else that he wants to say, and he's going to say it in a very honorable way to not contradict his father and not even say, and I have something else to say, but just say, there's more that could be said about this. And here's what he has to say about this. Why was Yosef Atzadik sold as a slave? Why did he have to go into slavery? So we know, if it says Anus al pi hadibur, that the Jewish people were forced into Mitzrayim because of the speech, so it's because of the koach hadibur, because of the power of speech. That's what the Rebbe says here. The power of speech. Do you know that the power of speech of a Jew is very creative? Chazal tell us that when we see all the angels that are surrounding us, from all the good speech that we ever said, the divrei Torah, the brachas that we made, the words of comfort that we've given to people, the words of encouragement that we've given to people, if we could see the angels that our words create, like right now, we can't see them, but if we could see them, we would faint, we would be overjoyed at the same time. And we will see them. We will see. That's what's going to be in Olam Haba, Gan Eden, Olam Haba, whatever. We'll see the power of speech. Right now, we have to believe in the power of our speech, but we will one day see all the white angels, the holy angels coming out of our mouth. And Chas Hashem, I hope we never have to see the dark angels that also can come, Chas Hashem, could come out of our mouth. Who was the first slave in Chumash? Is Canaan, right? The son of Noach. Noach says about his son Canaan that he's going to be a slave. Why is he going to be a slave? Not because he did a disrespectful act. He did a disrespectful act to his father. Some say he castrated him. Some say he just made fun of him. But the Gemara says the reason that he became a slave is because he spoke about Noach to his brothers. He also said Lashon. He said Lashon Hara. He called his brothers and he said, look at our father. The father's lying there drunk, and look at him. And so because of what he said, because of the power of his speech, that's why he became a slave. And therefore, all the power of negative speech in this whole story that we just had created a certain amount of energy of slavery. Canaan became a slave, and we don't know nowadays who's a descendant of Canaan. We don't know. We have suspicions, but we don't know exactly who's a descendant of Canaan. But Canaan was cursed to serve his brothers. And because the Jewish people, because the boys, the Achim, spoke badly about Yosef, and Yosef spoke badly about them to his father, and because Yaakov Avinu spoke inappropriately extra words, because of all of that, slavery was decreed for the Jewish people in Mitzrayim. Because remember that Avraham Avinu, when God said your children have to go to Mitzrayim, it was a decree from Hashem, right? Your kids are going to go to Mitzrayim for 400 years. That was a decree from Hashem. It wasn't because we did anything wrong. We weren't even born yet. Yitzchak Avinu wasn't even born yet by the bris ben and Besarim. But Hashem said there's going to be a big nation from you. And they need levels and layers of perfection and elevation. And the way that's going to happen to them is if they go to Mitzrayim, if they're slaves in Mitzrayim, and that will create them as a nation, and that will purify them and elevate them and purify them even more. So we had to go to Mitzrayim, but we could have gone to Mitzrayim just as regular immigrants, and do it. And we could have done in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, what we did in every single country that we ever went to. What did Jews do whenever they were in any country? What did they do? We came in quietly, and usually from persecution, and then we worked hard, and became successful. And then we became so successful. This is the history of Jewish people in the world. Then we became so successful that we got, people became jealous of us, and they became jealous of us, and therefore we, got persecuted, and then we usually leave, etc., etc. That's the history of the Jewish people. So how come in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, our first exile, which was the prototype of all future exiles, why is it that we didn't have that pattern of going in, succeeding, right, and getting kicked out. Instead, we went in and we became slaves. We were successful and then we became slaves, right? So why did that happen? So the Rebbe says something very interesting. He says that because we misuse the power of speech, like Canaan became a slave, so we had to have an aspect of slavery. Not just that, but because we would become the dominant nation of the world, and that is yet to happen, we need to know how to treat subordinates. So we had to have in our Jewish DNA, in our genetics, in our DNA, we had to have the remembrance of what it's like to be a subordinate, so that when we become the in charge of everyone, or when we begin to teach the world, we'll begin to teach with humility and not with snobbery and not with pride. Because our job is to bring God's name into the world. No matter how young we are, no matter how old we are. It says about the Rebbe of Volodnik, his mother, she was an old lady, and she used to ask Hashem every single day, what can I do to make your name more predominant in this world? What can I do to give you nachas, Hashem? Even when she was an old lady, she used to say this. And because of that, everyone would pray that they should have, she was a big tzadikah, and she had a big tzaddik as a son. And people would pray in her merit. Her son said, you could pray in the merit of his mother. She was so righteous. And she would say, what can I do to bring honor to God? What can I do? No matter what. Look, sorry, Emmanuel, even though the biblical ages were not the same as our ages now, but she was an old, comparatively many years old when she began to, again, continue teaching about Hashem by having this baby and by showing everyone that she gave birth and she nursed all the other babies and whatever, etc. And not just that, but she was a teacher and she didn't stop teaching. I saw a video online of a teacher who's very popular now. I don't think he's a working man, but he gives shiurim once a week in America, and he uses all these digital things. He'll, like, whenever he says a pasuk, he prepared his shiur, and there's always a screen next to him. And whenever he quotes a pasuk, before the shiur, he already typed it out, or he got it on the screen. Every time he quotes whatever he's teaching, there's always a visual to go along with it, so that people are watching him. They're watching the screen. He's speaking. There's a picture. Let's say he's speaking about the war in Israel. There's a picture of Israel. Let's say he's speaking about a pasuk. There's a pasuk is on there. He's incredibly digital. And I remember, so I saw this year, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't teach like that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should learn how to do shiurim like that instead of just talking, because you have to teach in the way that people can learn. But even if you're old, you can still teach people. So whatever it is, the power of speech is so powerful that because of the misuse of power of speech, Canaan became a servant, and because of the misuse of power of speech, we also became servants in Mitzrayim instead of being just second class citizens. And the Maharal says like this. The Maharal says that why is it such a big deal, the power of speech? Because the power of speech is the interface between the soul and the body. Think about animals. Animals are very similar to humans in terms of structure, right? Take a mammal. A mammal has very similar internal structure. They have a liver, they have kidneys, whatever. There's and certain animals are much more physically powerful than humans. But what don't animals have? They don't have a soul, and so they can't talk. The Maharal says the reason that animals cannot talk, even though they can maybe communicate between each other in terms of sending signals for danger, but they don't communicate ideas. And so why is that? Because they don't have a soul. And speech is the unifier, is the medium, is the interface between the soul, which we don't see, and the body, which we do see. And speech is that interface. That's what the Maharal says. So therefore, when we, chas v'sholom, mess up our speech, we're actually, chas v'sholom, lowering our level of soulfulness. And that's why mankind, in Chumash, in Bereshis, Hashem says to Adam and Chava, you will rule over all the animals. And what does that mean? You'll rule over all the animals. We're not slaves. Animals are not slaves to us, right? We don't rule them. It means that we're superior to them because of the power of our speech. So listen to this. Why did they decide to sell Yosef Atzadik? Because the Medrash says that Yehuda said, "We'll do what Hashem did. We'll do exactly what Hashem did." Hashem said, "If you pogem, if you break, if you ruin the power of speech, then you become a slave, a servant." So Yosef ruined the power of his speech by telling on us, by bringing Motzi Shem on us, so he can become a slave. That was his mindset. Why did Yaakov Avinu send Yosef Atzadik? So that Chazal tell us something very interesting. Chazal tell us, and this is a very, very touchy subject. Chazal say that nobody had free will in this whole story. There was no free will. Hashem orchestrated everything. Hashem made everything happen because he wanted this to happen in this exact way. And that's very hard for us to understand because we don't understand the fine line between bechira and free choice and Hashem making things happen. That's a big mystery in planet Earth. How much free choice does a person have? For example, a man has no free choice if he's born to a Kohen, to a kosher Kohen marriage, right? A man is born as a Kohen. He has no choice about that. So he has obligations of Tumah and Tahara, purity and impurity, who can marry, who cannot marry. A Yisrael has no free choice over who he is born as. He would like to be a Kohen and he can't be a Kohen. So there are certain things that we don't have choice over. And this, Chazal tell us, is one of those places that we had no choice in this whole story. Hashem said, this is how it has to happen. This is just how it has to happen. So there is a certain level of everyone was forced, just like Yehuda was forced to marry. The whole story of Yehuda and Tamar. Chazal say, why did he have to go through all of that? Why did that story have to happen? To bring Yehuda to such humility, because a king, who Yehuda was, it has to come to a place of humility. It says in Chazal that every single king and leader, and really every one of us, has to always have. We have to be carrying around a box with a sheretz in it. A sheretz is a unclean rodent or animal, like a mouse or a right or how do you say sheretz in English? You don't understand what I'm saying. The unclean little I forgot the category of animal that they are, reptiles or whatever. So every one of us has to have something in our past. Everybody has to have at least one mistake in our past that's so embarrassing and so humbling. It's embarrassing, and therefore we're supposed to remember when we recall it. It's not like we're going to get punished for that. I'm sure that whatever it is that we're carrying around, each one of us has done major tshuva on the stupid mistake that you made, that you wish you hadn't said, done, whatever. You wish you had said, done, whatever. We've all done tshuva, but we're still carrying around the memory of that. Why? It serves us for humility. So Yehuda says in Chazal, he never would have gone to do that act of being with a woman that he thought was a harlot. Why? He kept running away, and the Malach of Taiva kept pushing him back, and he kept running away, and the Malach of Taiva kept pushing him back. He had no choice in that matter. Why? Because it had to happen in that way. So here, the whole thing of Yosef and the selling of Yosef, it had to happen in that way. But the Shemi Shmuel says something. He points out that the reason it had to happen that way was so that everybody would have humility, number one. Number two, he says, and this is I thought it was a shocking point. He says, you can't be a slave to anyone who is not in the same category of humanity or of existence as you are. I'll say that again. He says, you can't be a slave. You can't serve anyone who's a different species than you are. Even when it says that Hashem says that humans will rule over animals, but animals are not conscious servants to us. They're not. We don't tell them. We don't tell the shore, the ox, go plow my field. We don't tell the horse, go pick me up to the groceries. We use them, but we don't have any kind of we're not in the same species. We're not in the same playing field. And he says that because the Yaakov Avinu was so perfect, and the Shavatim was so perfect, the sons of Yaakov were so perfect, they each had to have a little of an imperfection. They each had to do something a little bit imperfect so that it would have some type of an interface with the Egyptians, who were very, very imperfect, so that the Egyptians could indeed enslave us. Otherwise, we would never ever have succumbed to the slavery, to um, the arguments that Paro was trying to make for us. Right? Levi didn't ever sin, and Levi didn't ever become enslaved. The tribe of Levi, because they didn't mityaches at all. They had nothing to do with Paro, with the Egyptians, with any of them. They had nothing to do with them, and therefore they were not caught up. They didn't get stuck in the whole story of servitude. But everybody else. So here's what the Rebbe says. He says, everyone. Now you might say, what about Levi? Because Levi afterwards did a major tshuva. But every one of the tribes, including Yaakov Avinu, because Yaakov Avinu on a certain level, he wasn't enslaved in Egypt. Chazal tells us he had every luxury that Egypt had to offer. He had it in Egypt. But he was stuck there. On a certain level, he was stuck there, and Nebuch died there. So the reason that this is what the Rebbe says, the reason that all these things had to happen, that Yaakov had to make a mistake, and that Yosef had to make a mistake, and that the brothers had to make a mistake, in addition to the fact that Hashem arranged it and was making this happen, but they each had to have one cell in their body that was of the same type as the Egyptians. The Egyptians were called Ervat Haaretz, the desecration of the world, the lowest level of the world. That's when the Egyptians were in biblical times, and the Jewish people had nothing. No, there was nothing in common. So they couldn't enslave us, but because each one fell a little bit, there was that 1 second where they were able to connect and enslave us, and that was from Bitul Zibur Shel Batala, words of Batala, words that shouldn't have been said. And that's why, right? Remember when Moshe Rabbeinu later on, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said, I can't understand why the Jewish people had such suffering in Egypt. And then he heard Dustin and Aviram talking Lashon Hara, and he said, oh, now I understand. If that's the case, and people are speaking Lashon Hara, then that disconnects them from their soul, disconnects them from the source of who they are, and opens up all the whole Pandora's box of negative things that could happen to us. So now let's talk about the Lashon Hara in this generation right now. But I'm not going to talk about the private Lashon Hara. I'm just going to talk about Devarim B'Teilim. Devarim B'Teilim, which means this, that's what the words that the Medrash uses, which means ridiculous words or empty words or unnecessary words. So this week was the week that was, right? So today is Yom Revi'i, and on Yom Shlishi, and on Yom Sheni, on Monday, so that there's this whole thing going on. Netanyahu is in court trying to prove that he didn't understand that by smoking a cigar, he's doing something that they should kick him out of being prime minister. It's so ridiculous. It's so silly. It's just so silly. But whatever it is, in the middle of his diyun, in the middle of his and also because he supposedly told a newspaper to say good things about him instead, and that's considered like undue pressure, whatever they're trying him for. I don't know. I'm not a fan of either side there. But everybody saw that at the courtroom on Yom Sheni, on Monday, one of his security guys passed him a note, and he read the note, and then he asked the judge to go in the private chambers. They went in the private chambers, and the result of that was that on Tuesday, there's not going to be any court hearings. He has something important he has to take care of, because he is running a war and running a country, and it's ridiculous that they insisted that they're trying him now in the middle of it. It just shows you how desperate they are. Rabbi Kessin always says that the the side of evil is so desperate that they'll do anything because they feel that they're losing power. They'll do anything to just survive. So anyway, so sure enough, on Tuesday there was no there was no court case, whatever, and the whole media, the whole world is speculating, and there was so much running on the Arutzim. There was so much um, um, rumors going around. He's going to Egypt. They saw his plane take off. He's, this, we're going to attack Iran. Iran's going to attack us. Whatever. All these crazy things that everybody was making up. And it was conversations, bitala, bitulzman. It was a ridiculous waste of time. Bitul conversations. It was a ridiculous waste of words. And all of it was false. Everything was false, like everything is in the media. Whatever they're telling you, think it's the opposite. If they say there's no, like now in New Jersey, they're having all these drones. You know what that's going on? I didn't ask my the people I know who live in New Jersey if they see them, but there's these drones every night. There are these big drones that are flying in the sky, and they're having their lights on. They're blinking, blinking. You know it's a drone, right? It's an unmanned um, aircraft, I think they call it. I think they could be small and they could be like 2 feet in wide. They could be 5 feet wide, and they usually use their people buy them. People buy drones to make pictures, to take pictures. Like a drone, you can play with it on the ground, and it could go high, 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 and it has a camera in it, and you can take pictures of what's going on at the bottom. And so people use it for simchas to see like an aerial view of the simcha, and etc. So but there's lots of them, and no one's and the government is not doing it. For one whole month there were these drones, and no one knows. They can't seem to shoot them down. I don't know why. Oh yeah, I think I knew why. You're not allowed to shoot. It's illegal. It's against the law in America to shoot down something in the sky. So you can't shoot them down. The government's not shooting them down. Private people can't shoot them down. Nobody can catch them. Nobody knows where they're coming from, what they are. So it's like a constant conversation. What is it? Where is it? Is it dangerous? Is it not dangerous? The whole thing in the American, in general, the news is whatever the news says is probably the opposite. So somebody said, yes, there are Iranian spy drones, and there's a ship off of the coast of America that's playing with them, and crazy things people say. The media says the craziest things. So what is that? It's about wasting time. It's about trying to influence people. And you see that, and what it was that in the end, what was it in the end that the Netanyahu's meeting was all about? What was that? 1 second. It was that he wanted to go to the Hermon because you know that they captured the Hermon, right? They captured the Syrian. The Hermon is a whole range of mountains. We call the Hermon mountain that we have the Hermon mountain because we have part of it. But on the other side of it, there's the Syrian side of it, and Israelis captured that. And in this whole the Syrian revolution, civil war, whatever you want to call it, there's no government now there. There's no army. There's no government. There's nothing there. So so the Israelis went in, and the Israeli army went in, and they took out as many. They shot the planes down. The Air Force, the Syrian Air Force, they shot it down, and they destroyed 80% of the Air Force. They destroyed 80% or 90% of the Navy, of the Syrian Navy, whatever it is. They're trying to take out all their weapons because Syria is a very vicious country, has been very vicious to Israel and been very dangerous to Israel. So they captured the Hermon, and they put right away Israeli troops into the Hermon because the Hermon is a very high it's mountain range and it's strategic. And in the past there were many weapons that were many missiles, whatever, from the Hermon, from the Syrian side of the Hermon to the Yishuvim in the north, in the cities in the north. So Israel was determined to make sure that the Hermon is free of weapons, And they're there. The Israeli army is there now, and Netanyahu announced that they're going to be there for another year to make sure that nobody shoots at them, and until they can figure out how to make it safe for the Israeli cities in the north. But whatever it is, what was that note about? The note was Tuesday, yesterday, it's supposed to rain the end of the week, and he was going to wait till the end of the week to go to the Hermon. He made a big news conference in the Hermon, showing where they are. And he said that he was there 53 years ago during another war. Netanyahu said he was there then, and it looks the same. And the bottom line was he had to go to the Hermon, and because of the weather they're saying the weather is going to be rainy and stormy. He had to go yesterday to make sure that he could get there before the rain and the storms. So all the rumors that were going around that we're attacking Iran, Iran is attacking us, that he's going to get the Chatufim, they're going to get the Shvuyim, they're going to get all the hostages out, that there's a secret agreement, that there's going to go to Egypt, it was all false. But that's all that the news was talking about for days, for these 2 days. That's called Divrei Shav, Hevel. It's ridiculous. We shouldn't waste our time on it because we see how in the end it becomes nothing. In the end, it becomes nothing. I remember years and years ago, there was talk about a Kochav Yaakov. The Kochav Yaakov says in the book of Devarim about the Kochav Yaakov, that at the end of time, there's going to be a Kochav Yaakov, that Yaakov Avinu's star is going to come out right before Mashiach comes. And I remember years and years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, I had a friend, she was obsessed, really, with this whole idea of there's a planet that's coming close to America. It's a comet, it's a planet, it's a star, it's a sun. There was like a whole movement of people that believed in this. And the other, so every once in a while I ask her, like, what's with that planet? Like, where is it ever come? Is it ever, like, what is going on? And she, oh yeah, it's coming, she said. So there are certain things that we have to be so careful now of finding truth and seeing what truth is. Israel is so much celebrating the fall of Assad. Meanwhile, the guy who's taking over is a terrible, terrible person. And of course, he's making believe that he's more moderate because he has to now learn the game of dealing with the diplomats and all of that. I don't even know his name. I forgot his name. But whatever it is, he used to be a member of Al Qaeda or ISIS, whichever. I forgot who's on whose side. Al Qaeda is one group of terrorists, and ISIS is the other group, and I forgot who's. They're both hard. They're both evil. Should be evil. But he was he was one of those guys. You can't expect them to do tshuva. They don't do tshuva. And so now he's taking over. So I remember when everybody was so hyped up that Assad fell, and they asked the Rabbi Yenuka Tzaddik in Shul last week. They asked him last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it happened, I guess 2 weeks ago, they asked him about it. Is this a siman? Is it a siman? So the Rab said, he's not so excited about this. Assad's still alive. He's in Russia, living it up. So it means he has some kind of power. He's not yet dead. And when he said he's not yet dead, I was thinking, oh, that means that they're going to get rid of him. But okay, whatever. And this guy, we don't know about who this guy is. So he was like very non-committal. He said it's true that the Mashiach, it says in Sfarim that the Mashiach, that the beginning of the redemption comes from the north. First, the Galil is going to be destroyed, and the Golan is going to be destroyed, and then somehow the Redeemer comes from the north. That's what it says in Sfarim, and that is Assyria is the north, and that whole story started there. He was very excited about it. He acknowledged that, but the whole hype, that there's such a hype about what's going on in Syria. Meanwhile, quietly, to their credit, this is to the credit of the IDF, and I don't always say that, but to their credit now, they just quietly went in there and just took out all the things that they had to take out. They didn't make declarations. They didn't make statements. They didn't react, respond in a public way. They just went in, and there's no Air Force. They just took out the Air Force. They took out the Navy. They took out the bombs. They found. They still said that they didn't completely find all the chemical factories that they had producing chemical weapons. They didn't. I don't know if they found them or if they're not talking about finding them. So it's a funny world, you know. It's just a funny world, and it's hard to know what's really happening. So what I tell myself is, when you have to listen to the news a little bit. You have to know a little bit what's going on, but take everything with a major grain of salt. You know, in America, that's an American expression. You take it with a grain of salt. And I take it with a tablespoon of salt or with a cup of salt, right? Whatever you hear, you have no idea really what the truth is. We have no idea what the truth is. And also, a lot of times people have to say things, there's a purpose for them saying things. There's a purpose for things happening. And just like the brothers in the parsha, they had no idea why. They had no idea why they failed. They had no idea why they were going through this. Yosef Tzaddik for sure had no idea. I mean, he did on a certain level because he, like David Melch, took upon himself suffering for the Jewish people. But the whole picture, till it's at the end, it's not at the end. It's that, and that's why the Mashiach's coming, the Geula is coming, is compared in the Gemara to two things. One is compared to a sunrise, and one is compared to a birth. Now, a sunrise, you know that you do see the glimmer of the sun. The sky gets lighter. You know, it goes from dark to a little bit like a dark blue, and then a little bit of a lighter blue, and then a little gray, right? So you see the gradual sunrise. And then finally, when the sun rises, you see the yellow sun, right? But you see slowly the sky lightens up. That's one way that the Geula is going to come. And the second way the Geula could come is as a birth. And everybody who's had the privilege to give birth knows that that's not like a quiet, beautiful, slow process. It could be, but most people, it's a little bit of high tension, nerve wracking. And again, till the baby's out, the baby's not out. With a sunrise, you actually begin to have the benefits of the sunrise even before the actual sun rises. But as it's coming up and as the sun is rising, you already begin to get benefit from it because it's lighter outside. Whereas by a birth, you don't get the benefit till the entire baby's out. You see the baby's healthy, you cut the umbilical cord, etc. So right now, I think we're going through both. Actually, I do think we're going through them both simultaneously. On one hand, we have a lot of pain. We have shvuyim, we have hostages, and not just in Israel, not just in Gaza. We have Jewish hostages in Russia and Ukraine. There are people whose souls are being held hostage because they don't even know that they're Jewish. There's so much pain in this world. And we're waiting for the delivery of the Redeemer. On the other hand, there's so much gorgeousness in this world. We are sitting in the land of Israel. And even though the rabbis are saying we have to start praying for rain more seriously, it's a gorgeous day. We have food, we have clothing. We have people, most people say that they have what they need. I think we're the fourth happiest country in the world, something like that. And if anyone knows of someone suffering, then they try to relieve them. There was a case in the paper this week about a woman. They found a woman, and she was suffering from hypothermia, an old woman who lived by herself. And so here in Israel, it didn't say, I don't remember what city it said. And so on the news it said, please, everybody, if you know someone in your building that lives alone, check up on them. Once a week, twice a week, once a day, twice a day, check up on people. And we're not such a big country, and we're all friendly one with the other. And we're all living in buildings, so we know who's there. So very few people are really, really suffering from horrible poverty. So we have it's light. Even though Mashiach hasn't come yet, we're already getting the benefit, so much benefit from the gradualness of the Geula happening. There's more Torah being learned. There's more. We have commodities here. Anybody who's been here for many, many years knows how now we have everything. There's nothing that you can't get here. You can even get Amazon, which means you can get stuff from Chutz La'aretz. If you can't get it here, just Amazon delivers here. There's nothing that you can't get here. So we're having both. In my opinion, we're having both levels of redemption: slow and gradual, and peaceful, and beneficial, and easy, and on the other hand, painful and harsh and hard. So let's hope that the baby comes out speedily, and quickly, and it's overdue. This baby's overdue. And Mashiach comes, and we stop talking Irishkite silliness, and we begin to value the power of our words. And we begin, and as soon as the person misuses their power of speech, immediately do tshuva. That's all. The power of speech, the power of tshuva is from the power of speech. How do we do tshuva? Chatati, aviti, pashati. I have to say those words. I sinned. I made a mistake. I did the wrong thing. I have to say it. I have to admit it. And I have to say, I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be better. So misuse of speech is corrected by tshuva, which is the correct use of speech. Lots of miracles happening now, ladies. So Bezrat Hashem, keep your eyes open. From week to week, I say from week to week, there's so much to talk about in current events that really happened and things that they're talking about happening. So let's hope, Bezrat Hashem, that by next week already is Hanukkah. Next week is Erev Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a week from tonight. Bezrat Hashem b'shat tova. Let's hope we have a good Hanukkah present. Let's hope that the families of the Shvuyim and the Shvuyim themselves get the best Hanukkah present. That's all really we want. We don't need another, what do you need? Another sufganiya? You don't need another sweater. You need that everybody should be healthy and happy and free. We need that all the Jewish people should be healthy and happy and free. That's what we really want. So ask Hashem for your Hanukkah guilt. That's the tradition, is to give Hanukkah guilt. Yeah. So the guilt that you want is that the Shvuyim should be freed and returned back. Those who are not alive anymore should have Kever Yisrael, and the family should have comfort and closure. Bezrat Hashem. And we should start telling Hashem every day, I love you, Hashem, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's all. Because Od Yoter Tova, Od Yoter Tova, Od Yoter Tova. I love the theme songs. I don't know, does every country have this? During wars, they make up theme songs. We have theme songs in this country for the war. And that's the most popular theme song now. The most current is Hashem Oheroti v'noten li rak tov ve'od yoter tov. More good. Hashem loves me. He forgives me. He understands how hard I'm trying. I don't know if you ever learned the words of that song, or you heard the words of that song. It's not just that the chorus, but the beginning of the song talks about how I'm trying hard and I'm failing and I'm trying and I'm failing again. And I know you see I'm trying, and I know you see I'm failing, and I'm going to keep trying again. And you still love me for all of this. That's what that song means. And then you're going to give me goodness, forever goodness. We should pray every single day that we shouldn't look down on any Jew or judge any Jew. We shouldn't judge anybody. I'm really talking to myself. We shouldn't judge anybody. Anybody who has good blessings, we should bless them and be happy for them. That's a very, very high level. The Rav Tzaddik B'Yanuk is saying now, the main thing now is Bein Adam L'Chaveiro. I mean, I guess we all knew that, but he's talking about that a lot. That if you see somebody has good and you have challenges, be happy that they have good. So that's my tefillah for the week. Okay, ladies, have a good Shabbos, a good day, a good Shabbos. Go outside today. It's gorgeous. Go take a walk before the rains start coming. Go out, get some fresh air, take some walking. It's Erev Shabbos already. It's Wednesday. It's already Erev Shabbos. You have to start getting ready for Shabbos. Do your shopping. Begin cooking. Begin baking. Begin planning. Begin packing. Whatever you're going to be. If you're going to be a guest, you're going to be a host. That's right. Hashem is sorry for Shabbos today. We should have a good Shabbos. Everybody should have a good Shabbos.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Rebbe Rochel. I hope your blood pressure is good. Yeah? Yeah? I hope I didn't raise your blood pressure too much over there. I saw your daughter was taking blood pressure. Hi, Carolyn. It's good to see you. Hi, you heard this again. And hi, Davida. And whoever popped off the screen when I wasn't looking. Whenever I start to say hi to people, they pop off the screen. I get embarrassed. And hi to all the people on Zoom. I mean, on YouTube. You should be blessed. You can make comments. Say hi. It's not snowing in Yerushalayim. Only the people on YouTube will understand that. It's not snowing in Yerushalayim. Okay, bye everybody. Good Shabbos.
Thanks.
Good Shabbos. I have to close everything now. And this. and this